Hello,
Hello.
I'm Daryl,
I'm Charlotte, and
and
we
we are
are
the
the
Bakers.
Bakers. Yes.
So we're back on the air today, and we really would like to share something that's been dear to our hearts, and I believe that it's dear to many couples' hearts as well. However, we really want to give some definition, and also be able to give some solutions, and also be able to address an issue that's taking place in many lives of married couples and even family as a whole. So,
So in session 2, we talked about communication. Do you remember communication? How important it is to any marriage, for any marriage. So without consistent and effective communication, there can be problems. A marriage will suffer. There will be difficulties. Kind of like feeling like you're not on the same page when you don't communicate.
absolutely.
So if you feel your marriage is lacking in communication, it could be, one of the reasons it could be is what? Unforgiveness. And that's what we want to talk about today. Unforgiveness can plague a marriage. So we want to make sure you understand what that means. So when we think about the Webster definition of unforgiveness, it says it means not forgiving, invoking opposing sentence or condemnation, punishment for your words or your actions towards your spouse in this particular case. So when you hold unforgiveness, it will affect your communication with your spouse. We keep saying that because it's true. It can develop into feelings of resentment, anger, or even anxiety. You can feel stressed out about holding this forgiveness. It's like something, a chokehold on you that's holding your heart down, really, and your ability to develop or keep that closeness that you have. Now, for some people, it may even become a what, babe? An obsession.
Yes.
So these types of feelings tend to plague a person's mind. So when you really have unforgiveness in your heart, I mean, like real, like maybe your spouse says something to you that you felt was like the worst thing they could ever say. And so you've been holding it. Now, mind you, that might have happened 2 years ago, 5 years ago, or maybe it did happen last week. And you didn't express your feelings, and you felt maybe you were slighted, or you felt you were overlooked, or you felt like maybe some type of verbal abuse, and depending on what they said. So when you have those things going around, right, in your heart and your mind, then you're going to look at your spouse differently.
Absolutely.
Right?
And many times when you look at your spouse differently, you're looking at them from a perspective, maybe it's resentment and hatred is beginning to build up, disrespect. And that's one thing that there's a number of things that you really don't want to take place in your marriage, because individuals get married because of the fact that they have learned to love one another. And so if you love that individual, you love them enough to be able to make some changes, and also be able to recognize a issue, a problem that needs resolution, that needs guidance, and sometimes the guidance has to take place or come forth from maybe someone outside of yourself. Because many times when you are so locked up in the situation, you really can't see the danger of the situation, because of the fact that those emotions, that the unforgiveness begins to generate in you. So you looking at the individual as the problem. However, unforgiveness really, it hurts the person that is holding unforgiveness more so than the individual that they are holding unforgiveness toward. Sometimes that person may not even understand or recognize that you are holding such aught in your heart against them, and have no clue, in many cases, that you are unforgiving in a situation or circumstance, and it hurts you more. And so that's why it is important to really to get free from the unforgiveness, because unforgiveness can cause a lot of emotional pain, a lot of physical pain, and sometimes even sickness. And so,
Yes.
what do you have to say about
Well, that's
that?
one of the things I want to say. If you have really overextended unforgiveness, it can affect you physically. So you can feel, like we talked about, stress. You can feel, it can actually maybe elevate your blood pressure. It can weaken your immune system. And these type of things also happen when you're talking about anger, which is a whole nother subject. And it can also affect you psychologically because you're constantly, if you're dwelling on, just like anything you dwell on that's negative, if you're constantly thinking about it, it's going to grow and grow and grow. It's going to become so huge, this huge monster in your life that you're not necessarily able to function. Now, that's, of course, the extreme case of unforgiveness, but that can't happen because some people, maybe you're easily offended. Right, honey? Absolutely. Easily offended, meaning if someone just says your spouse says one small thing to you because maybe you have not, how would I say, matured in your emotions to a degree, because maybe it's a new marriage, and maybe it's a marriage you've been in for many, many decades, but you haven't developed how to work through things that may hurt your feelings, right?
And sometimes when you're not working through those things, that means that you're holding something within, and you're not being truthful to yourself, and you're not being truthful to the spouse. And what I mean by that is being truthful that you're able to express. Say, for instance, your spouse have said something that wounded you or hurt you, and you don't communicate that. Okay, so you harboring that particular emotion, that particular feeling, the negativity, and now you're holding that against that individual. Okay, and so if you're unable to communicate that effectively, then you're not giving that spouse an opportunity to recognize or to understand what is in your heart and how my actions or their actions actually affected you in that particular instance. And so if you are able to get to a place where you're real, not saying that you're just going to just say anything that comes out of your mouth. And you can be real by respecting a person's opinion, respecting their feelings, respecting their emotions, and understanding their perspective. And so if you're really in it to win it, then you have to make some changes, and some things you just cannot do or say. That's However, it's not necessarily what you do or what you say, but it is important on how you say it. You can say it to get results, or you can say it to get rebuttals in a negative way.
So now that we've defined unforgiveness, let's quickly tell them forgiveness. So what does it actually mean to forgive? So Webster, again, like dictionaries, means the act of forgiving someone for words or actions done that seemed unpleasant to you, right? Because depending on where you are emotionally, you may interpret it in a different way, like I was talking about earlier about having sensitive feelings or emotions. So you feel it's unpleasant, whereas in some cases the spouse may not even have meant it the way you feel it. You know what I mean? It's a lot of times it happens between, men, women communicate differently. So something he may say to me, I hear it differently depending on where I may be emotionally. Right, honey?
That's absolutely right. Okay.
So this is what we want you to do quickly as we wrap up. We want you to, if you feel this is an area where you need to improve. So if you do, imagine unforgiveness as this heavy chain. And just close your eyes, imagine a big heavy chain around your neck. Okay, so this heavy chain is around your neck. He said, so it could be, he said this to me, or she said this to me, and I'm never gonna forgive them. They should know better. That's my husband. That's my wife. So it's this, imagine big heavy chain, and you're walking through life with this big heavy chain on your neck, and you wonder why maybe you're so tired, you're not sleeping. I mean, of course, that's at the extreme when you have let it go on, and then other things have piled up on this chain. It may not just be one thing. Absolutely. So now, what do you need to do? You need to think about how you're going to get rid of this weight around your neck, right? Because it's what? Clouding your judgment about your life, and particularly about your
spouse or yourself.
And it's going to cause you sometimes, in a lot of cases, we've heard, we've seen, we've experienced, just in living, it can cause you to have defensive words or use defensive words towards your spouse.
Defensive mechanism.
Yeah, because it's defensive. You're putting up this wall saying, I'm not going to let this person hurt me again, because you never maybe really dealt with what you felt hurt you. So now you're going to be snapping and saying words. No, that's, and everything that person says, you may think, well, they're trying to take another jab at me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, because of the fact that you're wearing your emotions, your feelings, on your shoulders or on your sleeve. And so any word that can come forth, if you're holding resentment in your heart against an individual, you see them as a direct threat, and you see them as your enemy. You don't see them as your spouse. You don't see them as the one that loves you. You don't see them as the one that cares about you. You just see them as someone that has wounded you, hurt you, and you trying to figure out how to get back or how to defend yourself. And in a marriage, you should not be in a marriage like that, constantly defending yourself when you have come together as one. When you come together and say, I love you, and love is an action word. It is not something that we just say, but it also something that we demonstrate. So if you love that individual, you're not going to hold them constantly in contempt because of the fact that you have not allowed forgiveness to be a portion, have not allowed forgiveness to be what is going to set you free and bring you together in harmony.
That's good. So as we wrap this up, we usually like to end it with some type of activity. So remember I talked about the heavy chain being around your neck. So this is the way to dispel or get rid of unforgiveness. First of all, you have to forgive. So one of those things you need to do is you need to be honest with your spouse, and you need to have this moment. I hope you're having weekly conversations like we told you in the first or second session about communication. So this is a time when you come together with your spouse, you say, what's on your heart? What hurt you? What you felt wounded you? And then as you deal with that, and hopefully you can relay that information correctly so they can respond hopefully with, I'm sorry. And then as you do that, you say, I forgive. And I mean, not just the words, but it's a practice. I forgive you, meaning I'm not going to constantly bring this up anymore. And we're going to go past this point. And that's how you're going to get that weight off your neck. It's going to maybe in layers. It may take time, but you have to say, I honestly forgive you for what you said or what you did. You have to do that. If you don't actively say those words, you won't actively hear it. And so your heart won't actively align with what you're saying. So forgive. That's the assignment. So you need to take an inventory this week of, your thoughts, your feelings. If you have any negative emotions about your spouse, you need to write that down. And then you need to come together and communicate. So both spouses need to do this. You can do that in about, I would say, how about set aside 25, 30 minutes? I mean, that's not a lot. When you're talking about the health of your marriage, would you agree? You need to do that. I mean, in a week, in 7 days, that's really very minimal.
That's really, yeah, absolutely. And also, it's important to, when you're talking about forgiveness and you have not necessarily been doing it frequently, now that's something that you have to practice. So in order to practice, you have to start someplace. So here's an example, right? If my wife hurt me, she said something to me, and I said, listen, I may not be able to be in a position to deal with it at that precise moment because I got too many emotions, on surface, okay? And that's not necessarily a good time, all right? So you have to find a time where it's going to be most feasible and most profitable for those words to be released and also be received. Okay, so sometimes what I'll do personally is say, listen, honey, you said this, you said that, you did this, and listen, I didn't necessarily agree with that, but nevertheless, I forgive you because I don't necessarily hold unforgiveness in my heart. That's something that I've learned over the years, and something God have taught me is to learn how to forgive. Even when you feel as though that you have not done anything wrong, if you feel as though something is out of sync, it's good to take that initiative and ask forgiveness. Meaning that what you want to do, you want to strengthen the lines of your communication and making sure that you are synchronized, that you are on one accord. That's very, very important and also profitable. And also if you have children, and if your children basically are seeing, the activity of unforgiveness, then what does it do? And then we're going to hold some of this for our next session.
Yeah, for our next, because we can talk about this in a whole session. So as we end, we want to just recap and quickly say, once you come together, that time you did your inventory to determine if there is anything in your heart, any unforgiveness towards your spouse. Then after you discuss that, you both can say at some point, now say out loud, I am choosing to forgive you for what you said or did. Those words in that variation need to come out. And as you start honestly doing that and start releasing, both parties do that, I want you to imagine seeing that chain falling off, coming off your neck, because you don't have that weight. If you're honestly, now we're just not just talking about words, you got to say it. It's got to be this revelation of, I have to release unforgiveness.
Yes.
Because it's toxic for you,
Absolutely.
not them. Because you're the one with the chain.
Right.
All right. So seeing the chain coming off, whether it's falling off, getting cut off, however it's coming off, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of end with that, I think. Okay. So let that marinate, this week and going forward. And
I speak grace. I speak your ability to humble yourself. And I pray that you're able to come to a place of unity, a place of reconciliation, a place of forgiveness, and a place where life resides. I speak it and release it unto you.
All right. So I think that's about it, right?
That's about it.
So we want you to go to our blog before we release you. And our blog is enrichingyourmarriageblog.wordpress.com. Again, enrichingyourmarriageblog.wordpress.com. Check us out on Facebook. We're going to have this link there. We're also going to upload it to YouTube. So we're going to be looking forward to talking to everyone again. So see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.